So we're going to go ahead and get started here. My name is Kelly McNamara, and I am a training specialist at Bill Highway. Tonight we are going to cover how you're going to use and manage this Bill Highway system and the account for your section or division. The training is going to take place mainly from a treasurer's perspective, and then you'll notice, so a couple of times I'm going to switch through and go into a chair's role so that you can actually see how it's going to look when approvals need to take place. And that will all make more sense once we actually get into the account where you can see me actually going through approvals and things like that. Once again, I have muted everybody's phone lines. I'm going to open them back up at the end for any questions. Also, though, as a side note, as we go through this training here, if you have a question about a specific section, in the Zoom meeting, there is a place where there's a chat box. You can actually just type your question in there. So if you don't want to forget it or anything like that, you can type them in there, and then at the end of the training, I'll go to those questions first, and then I'll open it up for everybody to answer any questions that they could have. So either or, feel free to go ahead and put your question into the chat box, or just hold on to it at the end, and we'll go ahead and cover it then. So to get started, this is what your Bill Highway account is going to look like. Again, this is from the treasurer's perspective. Treasurer and chair is going to look very familiar. As you start to get higher up, things will be a little bit different, but not necessarily too far off base. But as a treasurer, when you log in, this is what you're going to see each time that you log into Bill Highway. Now, this is what we refer to as, your Bill Highway dashboard. This is going to be your home page where you're going to first log in, and basically this is just a great spot for you to come in and see the quickly overall, the money that's coming in for your section or division. Now, what you're going to notice is that there's a couple of sections on this dashboard right now that you're not even going to need to worry about, so we can actually just ignore those. The first section that we do want to talk about, though, that will probably be one of the most important sections on here, is going to be this cash account balances section. Now, this is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's a cash account balance, so it's going to show you all the money that's coming in. And then when the money goes out, those amounts will obviously go down. Now you have two main real accounts within the Bill Highway system, and that's going to be your operating fund account, and then you have a scholarship account. Now you'll notice there's an account in the middle here, and that's the in-transit account. Now the in-transit account is an account that we created here at Bill Highway, so when money is coming into your account, we put it in here to make sure that it's actually, valid funds that are good to go for you to be able to use. This comes into play when you are getting deposits and things like that from people, whether you're at an event and they give you a check for something. Well, we want to make sure that the funds that are in that cash account that the check is coming from are actually valid and there's funds to cover that check. So that's why we have this in-transit account as a holding account, if you will, to make sure that the money that is on that check is actually good. So you'll see that money will come into this in-transit account when you do deposits. And there will just be a holding account to make sure that they're going to be good, and they'll clear those bank accounts, and then the funds will actually automatically move from this in-transit account either to your operating fund account or the scholarship account. Based on the information that you entered in when you put that deposit in, the system will know which cash account it needs to go to. So any money that you see coming in this in-transit account will automatically move. You don't have to worry about moving those funds between there. However, you do have the ability to move funds between the operating fund account and the scholarship account if you so choose to later on at some point. If you want to start building a scholarship account, anything like that, you are able to move funds to that, and we'll talk about that later on. Now, what you're going to see within these accounts, it will tell you the actual amount that's available in them. And so this will be the amount that you are able to use to manage any expenses for your section or division. We have a lot of expense management tools available to you to make it easy and convenient for you to be able to handle those expenses for whatever they shall be. So you'll be able to have these funds, access to these funds to take care of those expenses. And you'll be able to see real time what amounts are actually available here by looking this. And then if you wanted a detailed report on what actually makes up that amount, you can click on these green links below each one of these cash accounts, where it will basically be a detailed report of the money that came in and the money that went out to give you what that balance is that you see right here. And then at the bottom, it would just give you an overall total balance, which would be, anything added up between these cash accounts here is what you'll see available here. So again, that's going to be a main account that a main section that you're going to focus on the dashboard will be your cash account balances section. We're not doing billing or anything like that, so really you can just ignore this section, and same with the recent activity. The only other section I want to highlight on your dashboard is going to be the budget summary section. Now within Bill Highway, you're going to be able to enter in a budget so that you can see how your section or division is doing based on the money that's coming in, whether that's through the rebating from headquarters or anything like that, or deposits or anything like that of money that's coming into your section and division, and then how you are actually managing your expenses and what you're spending those funds on. So you're going to be able to see that within your budget summary section, and it will show you the money that you are budgeting for coming in versus what you actually are. So that's what you're going to see, the difference between these gray and green lines here. Will show you your budgeted amount, and then what actually has been coded as money coming in. And then the same for your expenses under your cash out. So you'll see what you budgeted for your section or division, and then also how much you've actually spent of that amount that you budgeted for here. And then if if you're in excess or deficit, you'll see that down here. That's where you'll see the red come into play. If you are overspending, or over, your deficit or excess, you'll see a red here, and that's where you'll also notice it under your cash out. If you're overspending what your budget is. Not necessarily that it's a horrible thing that you're over your budget. Maybe you're just bringing in more money, so you got more expenses. So it's just always a good thing to kind of review and see what's going on. So your budget summary section will just show you at a high level how you're doing. And if you wanted to actually dive further into this, you can by clicking this View Budget Variance link within this budget summary section. So what this will do, will dive further into that report for you, and it will break it out for you by the different revenue and expense categories that you have, put in either a budget amount for your section or division or something that has actually been coded to it. So whether you got a deposit that came in and you put that into this Bill Highway system, under donations or exhibits, here's where that money would be. But right now we actually didn't budget anything for that. So maybe we're over budget here, and that's completely fine. This is just a detailed report to show you everything that's what you budgeted for and what has actually come in for your different chart of accounts here. Now this is all based on what you actually enter in, and we're going to talk about that later on. But then what you'll just be able to see on this is if you scroll down to the bottom, this is where you're going to get that, the overview of what we saw on that dashboard. From here, this report, I can actually export it out to Excel if I wanted to work with it in a format outside of Bill Highway. Also, any green links that you're going to see within Bill Highway are clickable links. So from here, I can actually click into this chart of account category here, where it brings me to a detailed report where I'm going to be able to dive in and actually see what amount that I put in, for this chart of account here, so I can see a detailed report on that. Now, just so you know, I'm going to point this out right now. I'm in a staging account, so you're going to see a lot of things like test sample or, sample information. You'll see maybe, different vendor names that are going to also include a lot of sample and things like that. So just wanted to put that out there that we are in a staging sample account. So some of the information might not seem actually relevant to what you guys actually call, things or different vendors that you use. So just keep that in mind that we are just kind of in like a test account so that we can show you what it's going to look like with actually data in it. Okay, so now that we have talked about the budget variance and diving further into that, I'm going to actually dive back to our Bill Highway dashboard, and you can get to it two different ways. You can click on the Bill Highway logo up in the top left-hand corner, or if you go to the right-hand corner in the top, you'll see this home button. Either link will actually bring you back to your Bill Highway dashboard if you wanted to just get back to that home base where you can review things that you need to. So quickly, that was just your Bill Highway dashboard, but now what we're going to do is really dive into the Bill Highway account and show you all the different features and functionality that you're going to be managing for your section and division. Now, the first thing that I want to review is going to be under the My Organization tab. Now, the My Organization tab is going to be information that is specific to just your section or your division. So from here, the first thing that we want to talk about is under the organization piece, and it's going to be contact information. Now, everybody was given an onboarding checklist before they have things to get done so that you can be ready to go with this new myASQ Finance, feature for you to roll out for your section and division. Now, one of the action items that you have on that onboarding checklist is actually to update the contact information within the Bill Highway system, or the myASQ Finance. So this is where you're going to need to do that. And again, that's under the My Organization tab, Organization, and go to Contact Information. Now, why we ask for contact information is kind of for a variety of reasons. One, if Bill Highway ever needs to reach out to your section or division to get some information from you. So maybe we received a deposit in the mail and we're just really not sure where it needs to go or where it needs to be applied. We would really hate for that money coming to your section or division to be delayed by any reason. So if we have this contact information, we can come in here and contact you quicker so that we can get those funds to you faster. Also, there's a feature that you're going to be able to use to send money from this Bill Highway account to either other sections or divisions or headquarters. Now, when you do this, we want to be able to provide those other section and divisions contact information as to why you are sending them money. So if they ever have any questions and they want to reach out to your section or division, this information will also be sent to that other section or division. So a couple of reasons why we just ask you to come in here and fill this information out. It's a fairly simple process. From here, you will click in this box, the drop down, and what you're going to notice on here is that anybody who has an account within Bill Highway who is listed as either the treasurer, chair, purchaser, sorry about that, really anybody that's like a administrator type person for your section or division will be listed under here. So you'll simply just select who it needs to be and then enter in a phone number for them and an email address, and then go ahead and click save. And then it's saved and updated for your section or division. You'll only have to come in and update this if that primary contact person's information changes. I don't foresee this happening all that often, unless your section or division has turnover pretty often, then maybe you would have to come in and do it. But again, it's a fairly simple page to manage, so it shouldn't take that much time to go in and actually just update that information. And then once you do that, you'll be able to check off one of your action items for your onboarding checklist to get this account up and ready for your section or division. Now, the other thing under the My Organization tab is going to be where we house your vendor information. Now, your vendor information is going to be the people that you have any expenses with, so any merchants that you utilize, for your section or division. So whether that is any type of thing that you need to pay money to for your section or division will be considered a vendor here, and this is where we're going to house them. So your vendor list will just show you every single vendor that you've ever, used your prepaid card for, or that you have used the online bill payment feature for, will be listed under here. You can come in here and just review who you've already used, and then if you need to make any changes to them, you can simply click on these pencil icons, and then that would update that information for that vendor where you can come in and change that information for them. Now, as brand new accounts in Bill Highway, you're not going to see any vendors listed here. So what you would actually need to do is come in and actually enter in a vendor, and you can do so from this page, or you can do so under the cash out feature, and we'll actually dive further into it once we start utilizing the expense management tool so that you are able to see exactly all the details that go into it. But it's a fairly simple process. You enter in a vendor's name, their address, name on the account, and then you'll save it, and then that information is saved for that vendor's information. Okay, so that will cover the My Organization tab. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the next tab, which is the Cash In tab. So within Bill Highway's sense of words here, if you can kind of grasp it to follow along here, we named it Cash In so that we could kind of group it together as a reason to understand money that's coming into the Bill Highway system would be cash coming in. So that's why you'll see it named as the Cash In tab. So what you'll notice under Cash In is the deposit feature. So deposits are going to be things that you're going to get outside of the money that is coming into you, from headquarters or anything like that. So this is going to be things that you are in person collecting checks from, events or, donations or anything like that that you are collecting, and how you're actually going to get those funds that you have collected into the Bill Highway system so you can utilize them for your expense management tools. Now, there's two different deposits that you can do within Bill Highway. You have an online deposit, and then you have a mail deposit. We're going to walk through both features, and I'll show you the, what to know about each of them to make sure that you're utilizing the correct one as you go forward through these different things. So the online deposit can be utilized to basically do a deposit that's going, like an ACH transfer almost, from the check that you have into your Bill Highway account. When you're doing an online deposit, you're going to follow these steps through, and it will walk you through how to do a deposit. Now, the first thing to know is it's going to ask you, what type of check are we trying to deposit online? And you're going to have a drop down here, and it's going to give you a list of all the different types of checks that are out there in the world. So you have personal check, business check, a bill highway check, cashier's check, or money order. So let's just say you got a business check from somebody for, a donation to your section or division. So I'm saying, okay, I want to deposit this business check into my bill highway account. Well, it's going to let you know that business checks can only be deposited by mail. So you're going to want to actually print that off and use the mail deposit feature. Now, this is because typically business checks have an ACH block on them, and they require those checks to actually be processed in person by a bank. You're going to notice that that's going to be the same thing for a bill highway check, a cashier's check, and a money order. These types of checks just can't be processed electronically, so you'll always have to do the mail deposit feature for them. But then you're going to see it's a personal check. It's going to say this is a member payment. Go ahead and just select no. And then what it's going to actually then be able to walk you through the process of doing an online deposit. So here it's going to ask us which cash account we want to deposit this check into. When we talked about on our dashboard those different cash accounts, and I said you have the operating fund and the scholarship fund, and when money comes into that in transit, but then it moves automatically, this is where you get to decide which cash account you want those funds to go into. So for example purposes, I'm just going to say it's going into our operating fund account. Just for reference, it does show you how much is actually already in that account. And then I need to enter in information as to who gave me this check. Now this is going to be on that check, so it really shouldn't be too hard to locate this information. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it's a sample check with information here, and then we're going to go ahead and hit next and move to the next page. So now on step 2, I need to enter in the details related to this deposit. So this is where I'm going to get that check number, which is going to be on the check. This is actually it's not required that you enter in a check number here, but if you have a check in front of you, you can go ahead and just enter in that number. Then you need to enter in the routing and the account number on the check, and you're typically going to find that on the bottom of a check, and it shows you that you're going to find it between these symbols to help you locate that information on a check. And then you need to enter in the account number, and then it does want you to enter in the account number again just to confirm that you've entered it in correctly to make sure that it matches, and then put in any notes as to why we're entering in this check. And then it's going to ask you a billing period. This is already going to be pre-populated for you, where it's going to show you it's just a calendar year is what we refer to as your billing period. Then on the next page, we're going to enter in the actual deposit amount. So this is how much that check was actually written for, and I need to put it in code it towards a reporting category. Now this is important for my budget, so I know exactly why we're putting this money into the account for. When I click in this box, a drop-down will appear where I have multiple categories that I can actually code this towards, whatever it was for. I'm going to use donations as an example, and I'm just going to say it was $25 is what the check was written for. I'm going to go ahead and click next, and this page is just confirming everything that we've entered in so far. So it's basically an electronic deposit slip that we've entered in, how much it was for, any notes, what it was for. I'm going to go ahead and check that I've read the terms and conditions, and I can go ahead and click submit. Now step 5 is a receipt step. So this comes in handy if you have that person's email address. You can enter it in, and an email will be sent on your section or division's behalf to let that person know, we received your deposit, it's going, for this information. Or you can click on this printer-friendly version where you can then mail it out to that person if you don't have their email address for them. But that's how you would enter in an online deposit for any checks that you have, personal checks that you have received for an event. Now let's say you have a lot of checks and you also have maybe some money orders or cashier checks or things like that. Well, in that case, you're going to need to mail those deposits in. And so we're going to walk through that process now. It's a little bit short of a process. It's only 3 steps to walk through the mail deposit form. And so basically what we're doing with this mail deposit feature is we're creating a deposit form that we're then going to print off and mail with our checks to an address that I'll show you at the end. So in step 1, again, very similar to the online deposit, we are selecting a cash account that we are going to put this money into. So for example purposes, I'm just going to keep this at the operating fund account. And then again, I need to select a reporting category. So I'm going to gonna, again, keep it at donations and sponsorships. Then on step 2, here's where I'm actually just entering in the check details. So I'm going to go ahead and put in check numbers and how much those checks are for. And you can actually enter in as many checks that you have on this page. You can continue to add as many rows that you need for however many different checks that you have. I think that there is, I'm trying to remember if it's money orders or cashier's checks. One of those doesn't necessarily have, check numbers on them per se. So in that case, you could always just enter in, 111 as an example for those, and then put those amounts in there to make sure that you can actually get those checks deposited for your section or division. So once you have all of the checks entered in, go ahead and click next. And then basically what this page is doing is just confirming everything you've entered in, and we're just going to print this off and be able to mail this in. So when I go to print, give me one moment, it's going to pull up a PDF for me. And so this is my deposit form. It just enters in those check numbers that I had put on that page, the amounts that they were for. It reviews my cash account of what I want to put them in, and then the chart of account to code it to, so I know on my budget what it's going against. And then how much is actually going to be, deposited into our bill highway account. Now it's going to give you the address to mail this into. Please don't write this one down. This is my test account, so that's not where you actually need to send your checks to. But when you create your own deposit form, the address will actually show up on there where you need to send it. So what you'll want to do, and what I recommend, is actually printing 2 copies of this deposit form. You're going to mail one of them with all the checks that you have on this page to the address that you see there. The other one I recommend to keep as part of your records, because then once those checks do get deposited, you can kind of go back and look at the report and make sure that all the checks got deposited. There could be an issue where maybe one of the checks gets returned or gets bounced. So that way you have record of whose check actually got returned, so that you know exactly, maybe if we need to follow back up with that person, let them know that something happened with that check, so that everything is good to go there. Now, what you see on this form is in no way tied back to the bill highway account of what's actually going into the account. We won't put anything into those cash accounts or hit those chart of accounts for any of those amounts until we actually receive those checks at the processing center. So that deposit form really is in no way, tied to, what actually goes in until we receive those checks. But I said that the copy of it is good for you for your records keeping, and then also on this page, because this page is much easier to use, and if you have multiple checks, even if they are personal checks, you can still mail them in. It might be easier if you have a lot of them, just to mail them in for easier way to get through all deposited through. So for the time being, these are the 2 features of how you're going to actually deposit funds into the bill highway account in the meantime. Okay, so that was a lot to take in about money coming in, you doing deposits. Now we're actually there is other ways that money can come into your account, and that's actually going to be from headquarters funding those accounts. You won't have to actually do anything when the money comes in to get those funds technically. And then the other way to get funds into the account is through transfer funds. And we'll talk about that once we get into the other tools tab. So there's multiple ways where money is coming into the account, but the deposits is really housed under the cash in tab. Okay, so now that we've reviewed money coming in, now we're going to talk about money going out and how you're going to handle any expenses for your section or division through all of the expense management tools under the cash out tab. So similar to why we named cash in as money coming in, we named it cash out for the money that's leaving the bill highway system to take care of any expenses. Now you have a variety of features that you're going to be able to utilize to handle any expenses for your section or division. Now there's 3 different ways. You have a prepaid card, which is going to be a reloadable MasterCard that you're going to be able to use online or in person for any transactions to handle any expenses for your section or division. You have online bill pay. So this is, I don't know if you've utilized, your local bank account. They have online bill pay where you can set up where they will pay out of, your bank account any vendors or anything that you have to take care of. So you can do that within the bill highway system and set up to have payments, be sent out of your bill highway account on your behalf for anything. And then you also have send money. Now, send money is used to electronically send funds to either headquarters or to other ASQ groups utilizing Bill Highway, so you can send money to other sections, divisions, or regions using the send money feature. So we're going to start with the prepaid card. Again, this is a reloadable MasterCard, and you're going to be able to utilize it for making purchases online for anything, or if you just need to run out to the store and you needed to buy something, at your local grocery store, or big box store like Target or Walmart or anything like that. That's what's nice about the prepaid card, is that it's very flexible and convenient for you to be able to handle any expenses that you have within your section or division. So the first thing that we're going to talk about on the prepaid card is actually ordering your card. Now, this is also a task on your onboarding checklist to go ahead and get a prepaid card ordered. So we're going to walk through that process of how you're going to do that now. Now, there are certain roles that are going to be able to order a prepaid card, and that includes the treasurer, the chair, the purchaser, and then also top tier leaders are able to order a prepaid card. Now, there is a fee to order the prepaid card. It is a $6 fee, and it's charged directly to your group. So it will just come out of that operating fund account when you go ahead and order the prepaid card. And then it will be mailed to the address that you enter in here within 7 to 10 business days. So in step 1, you have to enter the information about the card holder. So as you can see, the name on the card is blocked out. I can't enter or edit any of that information. This information comes from what is actually stored in Bill Highway. So when your account is created in Bill Highway, and the name that is on your Bill Highway account is the name that you're going to see on the card. And then you will have to enter in a date of birth. Now, there is no credit check run, anything like that. This is simply just use the date of birth, and the name on the card are just used to verify your ID so that we know, you are who you say that you are. Then you need to enter in an address of where we're going to send this card. Now, keep in mind that it cannot be sent to P.O. boxes. It actually needs to be a physical address of where this is going to get mailed to. And then another thing to keep in mind with the prepaid card address of what you enter in, if you make purchases online and it asks you for the billing address of the card on file, this is the address that you're going to enter in as your billing address here. So I'm going to go ahead and just enter in a sample address here. And then you will need to read the cardholder acknowledgement, terms and conditions, which you can click on the link and go ahead and read those. And I'm just going to go ahead and check this box and click submit. And then it will let me know that my prepaid card order has been submitted for approval. Now, what you're going to notice within all of the expense management tools is that approvals are going to be needed. So we do have a checks and balances system in place to make sure that what you are doing is actually what you should be doing, so that we want to make sure that you're not, fraudulently using your funds from your section or division for any reasons like that. So it does need to be approved by another administrator, and I just want to show you that, okay, so in my account, I'm going to go to order card approval so that you can see what this page is going to look like from my perspective. As I just went in, I ordered a card. So now I'm like, oh, I'll just go in and I'll approve my own card so that I can go ahead and, take care of these expenses and things like that. And again, I'm in a test account, so as you're going to see, it's going to run a little bit slow for me, also probably because I want it to run so I can show you as an example. It likes to run a little bit slower. So I just ordered this as the sample treasurer. I'm going to go ahead and check this box and hit approve. This is just asking me that you want to approve this order. So it's going to give me an error because I can't approve my own card, so that's why it's going to give me an error here. So if you give me one moment, I'm going to pause this account, and I'm actually going to jump in as the chair so that you can see the difference of what it looks like now for the chair. So I'm going to come in now, and I'm going to go to order card approval. And the page will look very similar. It's going to show me again that the treasurer is looking to approve a card, but when I go to approve it, then I should have no issues going to approve it. So what's going to happen is that, so I said the treasurer, the chair, purchaser, and top tier leader are all people who can order a prepaid card. Now, it does need to be approved, and so the chair and the treasurer are going to approve each other's. Oh, and of course, because I need to have this used, that's what's going to happen now. Again, I'm in a staging account, so I do truly apologize. Sometimes it takes a couple of moments for me to come back in and re-click on these, of course, earlier today when I was going through and testing. Here we go. That's why it always works just that way. So I'm going to go ahead and click Sample Treasurer, and I'm going to go ahead and approve it again this time. And hopefully all things are working. There we go. So now it lets me know that it has been approved for the Sample Treasurer, and it will be mailed to them shortly. Now an email will go out when, one, the treasurer sent that approval request in. People who can approve that card will get an email letting them know a prepaid card order is ready to be approved, so that I know to go in and actually approve that order. And then also, once this goes through, it will then tell me that I can also come through and now that that's on there, I can go through, I'm going to get an email as the treasurer that says my card is now approved. I can go through and load it now. So I'm going to jump back to my treasurer account. So bear with me one moment. So as you're going to see, I'm going to have to jump back and forth because we do have those policies in place to make sure that there's the checks and balances. So that's why you're going to see me going back and forth between a couple accounts so that you're able to see what those pages look like to be able to do these approvals when need be. So I'm going to jump to this card balances page just so that you can also see what this is going to look like. The card balances page will show you all the open prepaid cards within your section or division and any balance that's on them. So the chair already has a prepaid card. And now I see that my card is also listed here as well. It gives you the last four of what those cards, the card numbers are, and then any balance that's on them. I'd also see any pending transactions listed on this page as well if I wanted to review any activity that's happening on those prepaid cards. Okay, so it's a little tricky to remember that there's a bunch of people that can order a card. Some people can approve them, but I just can never approve my own. And again, this is just in place for checks and balances to make sure that I'm never just going in, ordering a card, approving my own load, putting money on it, approving that myself. That's never going to be able to happen. Somebody else is always going to have to approve things for you to make sure that the funds are being spent appropriately for your section and division. Okay, so now that I've ordered my card and we got it approved, I now need to go in and load money on that card so I can use it, whether that's in-store or online. So I can only load money on my own prepaid card. I cannot load money on the chair's card. I can't put money on the purchaser's card or anything like that. I can only load money on my own prepaid card. So that is something to kind of remember. You know, if you're out at a store and you need to make a purchase and maybe there's not money on there, you unfortunately can't call somebody else who's sitting by a computer and have them load it for you. You would have to load your own. So it is always a good idea to kind of keep that in mind before you go out to make purchases to make sure that you actually have funds on your Bill Highway prepaid card. What it will show you is that the current card balance right now, so again, this is a brand new card, so my balance is $0. I also have $0 in unapproved loads sitting out there. Now, we put that on there for a couple of reasons. One, so that you're aware of any money that's still sitting out there, but also because you do have a load limit as to how much money you can even put on this prepaid card. Now, you're able to load $500 on this prepaid card to be utilized as you need for your section or division. So we put these balances on here so that you are aware. If I were to, let's say, go through and I want to load money on this card, so I'm going to say my operating fund account is where I'm going to pull it from, and we also put the balance over to the right so that you can see, so that you never are pulling more money than what you actually have available, and then how much I want to put on the card. So I'm going to say I'm going to put $200 on my card, and then I'm going to add some notes, and I'm going to say a sample load request, and I'm going to go ahead and click submit. Now again, just like when I ordered my prepaid card, I get a notification that says that it needs to be approved by somebody else before I can actually use those funds. And again, another email is going off to those people that can approve these funds. And this goes back to the same people that are able to order, to approve the actual card order. So as me, as the treasurer, the chair can then approve this, or if I was the chair, the treasurer can approve it. We also have backup approvals if needed. So maybe, you know, your section doesn't have a chair, and maybe it's just you as the treasurer. There are backups, so the top tier leader, the operations manager, and finance admins are also able to come in and actually approve these orders or load requests if need be, so that things aren't just sitting out there for too long and you're not able to handle your expenses. So just want you to know that you do have backups available to help you take care of those things. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come back to this page and refresh it so that you can now see that on my unapproved loads has went up to $200 now. So what I need to know now is that my limit is $500. If I wanted to come in here and load, $400 onto my card, it's not going to let me, because my limit is $500. I'm not going to be able to actually load $400 on here. So I wanted you to be aware of how that looks if you're trying to put more money onto your card than what you're able to. So if I wanted to, I could go down to 300 to get my card up to 500, but I just can't go over that money there. So now if I want to actually use this money that's waiting as unapproved, I need to have it be approved. And again, I loaded it, so I can't actually approve those funds here. So I'm going to jump back to, again, my chair role, and give me one moment. And I will come down here to load card approval. And there's going to be a couple on here, so I'm not going to do the chair because that's the chair account that I'm on. I'm going to load the sample treasurer's account, and I'm actually going to go ahead and approve it. Now, as you can see here, there's approve or deny, and if you wanted to, on this page, to make it easier, if there's multiple requests that are not your own, you're able to just check all of the boxes by clicking the check mark up in the top left-hand corner, and then you would just approve all of them or deny all of them. But in this example, I'm just going to approve the sample treasurer's request for money on here. Now, it's a good idea to make sure that your notes are very detailed so that the approver knows why you're requesting these funds. So in real life, if you got a request for sample load request as the notes, I don't think that's probably a really good thing to approve. So you might want to deny that transaction and then have them go back and actually put some detailed requests as to why they're loading those funds. So that's just another sample as to why we ask for notes in there, so that you know why you are approving or denying these requests for these loads. So now if we come back to card balances, I want to show you how the page is going to look different now that we have actually requested $200 and that money has been approved. So now that we're going to see on the sample treasurer prepaid card, I now have $200 that I am able to use this card, whether that's in person or that's online. I can use this money for any expenses for my section now. Now, once I start using this money and spending these funds for my section and division, I actually need to know why we're spending these funds. I need to code these things to my budget so that I know what we're spending our money for our section for, so that we can stay in line in our budget so we know exactly what we're doing to make sure that we are operating successfully. Well, when you loaded your card, we really just put an amount on there and then we move forward. Well, so I don't know exactly where I'm spending it or things like that. So that's where you actually need to come in and go to code card transactions. And this is where you're going to code any transaction that has settled to a specific, vendor and chart of account, so we know where we're spending our money for our section and division. Now, the code card transaction page is only going to show settled transactions on any of the prepaid cards, so for your section and division. So I can come through and I can see ones for my card, I can see them for the chairs, I can see the purchasers. Everything that's settled that has not been coded will show up on this page. And you're going to see a lot of information on this page. It's going to give you the transaction date of when it occurred, the merchant date, the merchant name of where we spent it, how much we spent, and then we need to enter in information. So here's where we need to select the vendor, what chart of account we're coding this to, this category that's going to go towards our budget, any notes as to why we spent it. So this is in addition to those load requests, we're putting notes that go specifically to that transaction though, and then whose card it actually was on, so that we know whose it was. Now this page, anybody can come in and code these. So I don't have to code just the treasurer's prepaid card transactions on here. If I know what the chair went in and spent things on, I can code that transaction for them. We just want to make sure that we're coding transactions in a timely manner so that we remember, one, why we spent them, and two, where we spent them, anything like that, so that we know that when we code them to our budget, it's correct, it's the right chart of account. We know that because it's in a timely manner that we're doing this, so that we know that our budget is up to date and correct as to why we're spending things, so that we can stay in line as to what we're doing. If we're in line for next year's budget, this is what we always spend, or if we know we need to go up or down and things like that. Okay, so to code a transaction, we will just select the transaction name, so check the box all the way to the left of that transaction. The merchant name is Sam's Club, and this is how much we spent there. And then I need to come to my vendor list, and I will click in the drop-down, and all the vendors that I have already set up for my section division would appear here. Now again, you are new sections and divisions, you have new accounts within Bill Highway, you probably don't have any vendors listed. So what you're going to need to do is actually add in a new vendor. Now you can do so through two different ways. I can do so from this page by going to add new vendor, or I can come back to that My Organization tab and go to vendors and go to vendor entry. So we have that there two different ways. If you already know as many of vendors that you're going to be utilizing, when you first get into your account, you can come in and add them. But with a prepaid card, because it is flexible and you're just using it, at your convenience, sometimes you might not know which vendors you're going to need. So you can always come in and do so from this code card transactions page. So I don't see Sam's Club listed here. So I'm going to go ahead and click add new vendor, and I'm going to add in that information for them. Now what you're going to notice is this page looks different from when we looked at it under the vendor entry page. Now this is because with a prepaid card, there's not that much required information that needs to be entered in for a vendor compared to when you use it for, let's say, the online bill payment. And we'll dive into that once we get to that section to show you the differences of the information needed when you enter in a vendor. So for a prepaid card, I need to know the vendor's name, so we know that this was Sam's Club. And then I need to know the name on the account. Now with Sam's Club, you typically have to have an account, so I would know whose name is on the Sam's Club account to enter in here. Now, however, if I was just running to Target or Walmart, there's not an actual name on the account with there. I was just running to make an errand. So this is where you're going to have to use your discretion here. If you actually have a name on the account, like with the Sam's Club account here, I could just write, sample name of who it actually is. Or if I was just going to Target or a grocery store, something where there is no name on the account, again, you can actually just type in sample name, or you can put in your name here. That's completely up to you as to what actual name on the account needs to go here with the prepaid card. We're going to pay the vendor from the operating fund account, so I'm going to go ahead and just leave that there. And then 1099 reporting, I'm going to say no because it's for Sam's Club, so I don't have to go ahead and change anything there, and I'm going to go ahead and save this vendor's information for my prepaid card. So I'm going to come back to my code card transaction page. As you see, after I just click save, it jumps me right back to that page. I will have to go ahead and check that transaction though. Now when I go to vendor, I see Sam's Club show up. And now I need to enter in my reporting categories as to what this expense was for. So again, when I click in this dropdown, it's going to give me all of the reporting categories that are available to all sections and divisions. These reporting categories are the same across the board. There's not individual ones for different sections or divisions. So this is a master list that's used by all sections and divisions. So just keep that in mind if you're not seeing something on there, to possibly reach out to headquarters if it's something to get added in, or just try to find something that works best in lieu of what you actually wanted to try to use here. So for purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and select one, but maybe I'm at Sam's Club, and I don't know if any of you, go to Sam's Club or Costco, but typically you walk around and you purchase a lot of things because you're there in the moment and you just like to fill your cart up. So most likely this is not just one thing that I went to Sam's Club to buy. This is actually going to multiple different reporting categories within my section or division. So what I really want to do is actually split this transaction into multiple chart of accounts. And to do so, I'm going to click on this split link here. And what it's going to do is it's going to pop me to a new page. Now it's going to give me the basic information that I still had from that home page. So I do still see the transaction listed here, and my vendor is already going to pay Sam's Club. But now what it's going to do is it's going to give me some more information here of where I can actually split this transaction into multiple chart of accounts. So right now I have it just going to one, but I need it to go to multiple things. So this is where I'm going to come in and I can click this add row button, and a new line item will appear where I can drop down and then select a new report category. So I can maybe do miscellaneous, and then I'm going to go and click and add another row, and I'm just going to keep adding as many rows that I need to for everything that I bought there. Now what I do need to do though is make sure that I come in and I change the amounts here, because I need to make sure that I'm putting in the actual dollar amount of what it needs to be. And then I need to make sure that the amount that I entered in here, which it did not, the amount that's the total here matches the total amount that I see up here in the original transaction to make sure that when I do split this, the amount will still add up to the same here. And then go ahead and enter in a note and then click submit. What that now does is, one, it removes that from this page. As you can see, my Sam's Club transaction is no longer here. And now it's actually coded to my budget. Those line items are going to hit those reporting categories of how much I needed to spend for each one of those transactions now. Now, you want to come in and make sure that these are coded in a timely manner. So that's why you can always review that card balances page to see things that are pending until they come in here as fully settled. After a week, if any transactions have sat on this page for longer than that week, email reminders will go out to the treasurer, chair, and purchaser, letting them know there are transactions out there that you need to code so that we can get our budget in line. If need be, you can export this out to Excel, kind of work with it outside of Bill Highway just to get everything down. So then when you come back in here, you can always just enter things in quickly to make sure it's done. Okay, so now the last little pieces under the prepaid card section will have to do with if you ever need to unload your prepaid card, or if something happens and you lose it, or maybe you just need to cancel it. Maybe you have a chair or a treasurer, somebody is stepping down and they no longer in that role, so you just want to cancel that card so that they don't have access to use it anymore. Those things would be handled down here at the bottom. So if I ever needed to unload my card, so let's say I loaded $500 on my card to use, and something came up, and I actually need to take some money off because I need money back into the Bill Highway account to use the online bill pay feature to pay something. So if I needed to, I can easily come in and go to unload card, and I think I am still in the chair's account. So one moment, I'm going to jump back to the treasurer's account, and that's why you see that there's not enough money on that card, because the chair didn't have any money on their card. Okay, so we're going to jump back to unload card is where we're going to look. So as you can see, we have $200 on this card. So if I needed to and I wanted to take money off, put it back into the account so I can use it some other way, I can just do so by selecting which account I want the money to go back into. Typically, it's going to be the account. I'm sorry, what was that?
There's a lot of questions piling up in the chat that you seem to be walking away from. Might there be a moderator with you who could draw those to your attention?
I actually had asked to put the questions in the chat so we can go through them at the end.
I understand. I hope you have enough time allocated at the end, because there's a lot of questions piling up in the chat. Yeah, we should have enough time to hopefully get through all of those. There's going to be a lot of questions. It's a brand new system that you have to, try to learn and manage. So we do understand that there's going to be a lot of questions to go through and answer at the end. So, and hopefully we'll be able to, knock them out pretty quickly. And then we also have a lot of resources available to you afterwards to help you, get through all this stuff as well. Okay, so we're going to decide which cash account that we want to put the money back into. Typically, this is going to be where we loaded it from. So more often than not, you are going to load from your operating fund account. So that's where we're going to put that money back into. And then it's going to ask how much I want to unload. So I'm just going to say we're going to unload $100. And then the notes is always just going to be prepaid card refund. That's the standard note that gets entered in. If you want, you can change that, but then we just put that in there as a default to know why it's coming back onto the card. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And then what's going to happen is that it's going to let me know that it will take about 2 to 3 business days. You'll then see that money into your operating fund account. And now, as you can see, I only have $100 left to use on my card. Again, I can only unload my own funds. I can't unload for anybody else. They will have to manage that through their own Bill Highway account. However, I can report somebody else's card canceled or lost or stolen. So I do have some more flexibility with that. You just simply will come in and select the cardholder's name, and then we will select if we want to cancel it and just cancel it out completely, or I want to report it lost or stolen. If I report it canceled, any balance that's on that card goes right back into my operating fund account, and then I can just move on from there. If a card is reported lost or stolen, I need to enter in a replacement address of where I'm going to send that replacement card,
and any money that was on that card will then actually go to a new card that's getting mailed out to that person. Now, with canceling a card, there is no fee, but if you report a card lost or stolen, there is a $15 fee as a replacement fee for it, and as you can see, it's noted here on the bottom for that. Okay, so that was a lot to cover with prepaid card, and now we're going to dive into the online bill pay. Now, online bill pay will be used more so as things that if you needed to present a check to somebody, you'll use online bill pay. If you have reoccurring monthly charges, you can utilize your online bill payment feature for that as well. So this is just another way to handle anything outside of using a prepaid card, like the need to have a check presented to somebody. So if we want to set up an online bill pay, we're going to come to online bill payment, and we're going to go to schedule online bill payment. So it's going to walk me through this process, a 4-step process. So in step 1, I need to select the cash account that I'm pulling the funds from. So you're going to notice this common theme as we walk through these features, that it's going to ask you what you need to do, where we're pulling it from, and then I'm going to see how much money is available. Now with the online bill payment, there's not going to be that limit that you saw with the prepaid card as how much money is going on there. So if you needed to take care of something that's a little bit more expensive than $500, you can utilize your online bill payment feature for that. Then I need to select the vendor of who I want to pay for this. Now this, again, is going to be a little bit different than when I entered in vendor information for prepaid card, and now this is twofold why it's a little bit different. With online bill pay, we are part of a network where we have known vendors of where you can send online bill payments to. And what I mean by that is that there are national vendors. If you needed to make a payment for, let's say, your cable or internet bill, and you needed to pay, Comcast or AT&T and things like that. Now, those are nationally recognized vendors, and they're part of our vendor program, where if I wanted to set them up, I can actually send my payment to them electronically, and it will get to them quicker. Now, you can have vendors who are local, wherever your sector division is, who are probably not part of this national program, and what's going to happen is that this online bill payment system will actually write a check for you on your behalf. So when we enter in vendor information for online bill pay, it is going to ask you for more information than it did with the prepaid card, and I just want you to be prepared because it's going for if it's part of the national program or if it's not. So that's why we have to enter in more information with the vendor for online bill payment. So from here, my drop down again, I've used this sample test account, so that's why I have some vendors listed here. But you haven't used your bill highway account yet, so you're not going to have any vendors. So we're actually going to click on this link to add a vendor for your account to use this online bill payment page for. Oh, sorry. There we go. Is everybody back on the page for vendor entry? Okay. Okay, so we'll jump back to the scheduled payment so that you guys can see that. I do apologize for not getting that back on there. Okay, so again, we'll select our cash account and where we're going to see the money that it's coming from, and then our vendor of how we're going to pay them. So I'm going to click Add Vendor so you can see the difference when I add vendor information in for online bill payment. So as you can see here, the vendor name, of course, is always going to be a required field because I need to know who I'm paying here. So I am going to enter in 2 vendors so that you can see the difference here between the nationally recognized vendor and a local vendor where the information is not actually saved anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and start entering in for Comcast. Now, as you can see, I got a couple letters in, and I'm getting a lot of matches for this. So what's going to happen is if I am paying a national vendor, I need to find the one that matches where my bill came from. So I should have a bill in front of me, and I should know which area I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and just select this one, for example, and now it's going to give me multiple addresses were found for this vendor. Now this is where I want to look at that bill I actually have from this vendor, and I'm going to match the address as to where I send my payment normally for that vendor and match it on here. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's this address, and it's going to pre-populate that for me so I don't have to enter it in. Now here we get to this name on the account part. Now this is where it actually does come in handy, where it needs to be that valid information. So with a national Comcast account, I'm going to have a name on the account. That's probably going to be my name. So this is where you would actually type in, your name. And then you're actually going to have an account number with Comcast. And what this shows you is that this is the format that it needs to be in for this vendor. If I enter in something that does not match this, it's going to tell me that this is probably not the right information for this vendor to set them up. This information for the account number and all this mailing address is going to be on that bill you have from this vendor so that you can make sure that you're matching it correctly. And then you'll need to make sure that you are matching that information here. And again, it's going to make sure that you're matching this because it wants to send this information electronically to this vendor so that we know that it's going for your account to the right place. And again, I still would have to select if I'm paying from which account. I'm probably always going to pay from my operating fund account. Comcast, I'm not doing 1099 reporting. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Save to save this vendor. So it lets me know that that vendor has been saved successfully. That's great. But I also wanted to show you what it's going to look like when you enter in information for somebody who's not part of the nationally recognized program. So I'm actually going to click Add Vendor again. And what I'm just going to say is I'm just going to say this is Joe's Grocery. So as you can see, as I was typing that in, nothing is populating for me under Joe's Grocery. So what you're going to notice is that when you have a vendor that is nationally recognized, when you start typing things in, it will give you information. Joe's Grocery doesn't have anything. So this is where I would then just enter in information for them. I don't have to enter in phone, it's not required. Name on the account number. I do need to still enter in an account number. So even though with Joe's Grocery, I probably don't have an account number, I'm just going to go ahead and put sample information in for them. It's very important when you are paying a nationally recognized person that you get the account number right, but when it's just a local account that you are just, most likely getting a check to them, you don't have to get the account number correct. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save to add that vendor as well so that you can see how that looks. Okay, so now we're back on the online bill payment page. And again, I do have to pick my operating account that I'm paying from. Now under where I want to pay a vendor, I'm going to select that Comcast account that we just added, and I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Now what you can see is that this is telling me my payment will be delivered to the vendor within 2 business days of my send date. This is because this vendor is part of that nationally recognized program where my payment is going to be electronically sent to them. Now if I go back and I select Joe's Grocery and I move forward, you're going to get a pop-up that's going to let you know it may be faster to pay this vendor with your prepaid card. However, if you don't want to pay them with a prepaid card, you want to continue with online bill payment, just go ahead and select, we're going to continue with online bill pay. And now what you're going to notice is that it tells you that your payment will be delivered within 5 business days instead. Now this is because instead of being able to electronically send money to Joe's Grocery, this system is actually going to create a check on your section's behalf and mail it out to Joe's Grocery. So I just want you to know that that's the main difference in online bill pay between a vendor that's nationally recognized versus a vendor who's not nationally recognized. Is you're going to notice that the payment will be delivered in between either 2 or 5 business days. The rest of the steps are going to be exactly the same, so we're just going to follow through using Joe's Grocery in our example. Now I get to decide how often I want to pay Joe's Grocery. Is it just once? Am I going to be paying them monthly, or do I need to pay yearly? So once, it will just have me put in the send date and a memo. If I'm paying monthly, it's actually going to ask me, how often do I want to do this? Do I want to keep going after maybe end after 12 occurrences? Do I want to end after, a certain date? That's where I can select, or if I want to just continuously keep paying them. You have a little bit more options when you select monthly or yearly as to when you want this to end. So for example purposes, I'm going to select monthly that we're paying, and I need to select my send date. I'm going to go ahead and pick the future because, again, it does need to be approved, so I want to make sure I give my approver time to come in and approve this before it needs to go out. And then I'm going to go ahead and say after 10 occurrences to just stop this then. Now, I don't have an estimated delivery date because one, I'm in my staging account, and two, we also need to have it be approved. But had it, be approved after this send date, after the 16th, we go 5 business days, and that's when Joe's Grocery is going to receive this payment for them. I'm just going to put sample in my notes, but again, this is where you want to put something in here so that your approver knows why this is going out. So as the treasurer, I can enter in this information, and then the chair is going to approve it. We also have those higher ups that can go in and be my backups if I don't have a chair at my section or division, but the treasurer does actually not have approvals to come in and even approve these at all. So treasurer creates them, chair approves them. So when I go to next, now this page should start to look a little bit more familiar to us. We're going to select a category as to why, we're paying Joe's Grocery. I'm going to put in the amount. If I want to, I can add multiple rows as to why we are paying, so I can make sure that on my budget, I'm reflecting everything correctly and my correct dollar amounts. Go ahead and click next, and it's going to let me know what's going out. Once this is approved, we're going to send this, my details related to it. One note to let you know that this amount will be deducted from your operating fund each time on a recurring schedule. If the amount that I need to pay on the next month is not in there, my payment will be delayed until I get that money in that account. That doesn't mean that it gets canceled or anything like that. It will just wait till I have the funds available to pay this payment. And then it will continue so after each month after that. I'm going to go ahead and click submit, and then it's letting me know that it just needs to be approved. I'm going to jump back to the chair's account so that I can show you what it looks like to approve this for someone. So as you can see now under the chair, I see online bill payment approval at the bottom of this page. And when I jump back to the treasurer's account, you're going to notice that that is not there anymore. So I can see Joe's Grocery, monthly, and anything related to that. So I'm going to go ahead and check this, and then I can again deny or approve these for training purposes. I'm just going to go ahead and approve it. And it lets me know that there's nothing left, we're good to go. Okay, so we're going to jump back again to the treasurer's account so that we can see what it looks like moving forward. So again, here you notice that there's no approvals down here, but what I want to do is now I want to review that. So I'm going to go to this review, manage reoccurring online bill payments, and now I can see Joe's Grocery, it's monthly, it's active, and what we're sending it. So as you can see here, this reoccurring page will show me anything that's reoccurring, all the different online bill payments that are going out. If I ever needed to come in and stop payment to Joe's Grocery, or maybe we need to pay more each month, you can come in and click the pencil icon. And it brings me back into what I set up, where I can just jump through and again, just click through these and make any changes. So maybe I want to maybe not end it at all. I can choose to do that. And maybe the amount is actually going up. So now we're going to pay $20 instead. So now what's going to happen is I have to resubmit this, and it has to go back for approval again. So I know we've already set up the approval once, but I made changes to that. So it does need to be approved again by that chairperson. The other feature under online bill pay is we'll show you all of the online bill payment activity. So not just reoccurring, it will show you the one-time in addition to the reoccurrings as well. And you can see anything that's pending approval and things like that. So these ones, we are still waiting approval. That's why we can, make some changes on them. And then if I needed to come back and manage any of the recurring, those are also located under here. Now our last feature under cash out is send money. Now send money allows you to electronically send funds to other groups using Bill Highway. So this is where you can send funds to another section or division, or headquarters is actually able to send money to your section or division. So in addition to those deposits that are coming in, send money is another way that you're going to get funds into your section or division. And again, just like with our other features, it will walk you through the process of how to set this up. And then again, there's also going to be approvals depending on where you're sending your money to. So in step one, we select who we're going to be sending money to and which cash account we're pulling the money from. And again, it's always going to give you a balance of what's available so that we know that we're either not sending too much or we have enough money to actually send to them. Then it's going to ask me where I'm sending this money to. So in my example, I have some people I've already used in this test account, but you as brand new users in your Bill Highway accounts are not going to have vendors listed here besides ASQ headquarters. That will be a default that you're going to see there, that you can send money up to them. But when you need to come in and send money to anybody else, you're actually going to select add a new vendor. Now this is a little bit different than adding vendors in the other features. This we just simply need to come in and search. So you can search by just names. If I wanted to say ASQ, if I wanted to say section, if I wanted to say division, anything like that we can search by. So I can search by the national name, which in our system we call that, national name is ASQ. Then you can search by a group name, and that's going to be your sections, whether that's the Milwaukee section or different regions, things like that. So what you just need to do is come in and find whoever you want to send that money to and go ahead and select add. And then that will add them to your list of your new vendors here. Now I'm going to show you how it's going to look when you send it to a different section or division or region. And then I'm going to also show you what it looks like when you send to headquarters, because there's a little bit of a difference and you won't notice until the last page of what that looks like. So let's say I'm sending money to the region, to another region here. So in step 2, I'm entering why I'm doing this. Now this does appear to this other region when they start to get money from your section. So it's a good idea to keep this detailed so they know exactly why they're getting money from your section. And again, the billing period is going to be your calendar year, so this should already be pre-populated for you. And then now we're going to enter in the reporting category so we can tie this back to our budget, and then the amount as to how much we're sending to them. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a sample one here, and the amount. We can also add in multiple rows like we did when we were going through encoding prepaid card and things like that. So you always have the ability to add multiple rows for different reporting categories. But then I'm going to go ahead and click next to show you what the last page looks like. So this is where I'm just confirming my details so far. And I can see where I'm sending it, which account I'm pulling the money from, how much, and my notes for it. Now this is where that primary contact information comes into play. So I can see here who I'm sending that to and their contact information, so that if they have any questions, they're going to get an email and it's going to show your primary contact information. So if they have any questions, they can get a hold of you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit, and then I'm going to get a notification that it needs to be approved. So just like with all the other transactions, the expense management tools, everything needs to be approved within the bill highway system, so checks and balances are taking place here. Now the one thing that you'll notice under here is that I don't have approvals here, because the treasurer can initiate it, but the chair has to actually go in and approve it. So give me 1 second, I'm going to jump back over to the chair's account so you again can see how it's going to look like if you are the chair role, to know what you need to come in and actually approve. So under cash out, so it's not under send money, it's just its own send money approval bucket. And as you can see here, we have this send money transaction that I initiated. And again, I can approve or deny this transaction. I'm going to go ahead and click approve for training purposes so that you can see it's been recorded. Nothing else is left on this page now. Okay, we're going to jump back to my treasurer account, and I'm going to run through it real fast of what it's going to look like if you send money to headquarters, and notice a little bit of a change once we get there. So from here, I'm going to select my cash account again, and then my vendor, I'm actually going to select ASQ headquarters. Now there could be times where you actually need to send money to headquarters, and so this is the tool that you're going to utilize to get those funds up to them. So I'm going to go ahead and click next, and again, these are going to be the same steps that you follow when you're sending it to other sections and divisions. I just want you to notice a quick change at the end when we're on step 4. So again, I need to just select my reporting categories, however much money I need to send headquarters, and then what you're going to notice on step 4 is that I don't see any of that primary contact stuff, because I don't need to worry about that. No email is going to be sent. This money is just going up to headquarters. I don't need the contact information, anything like that. And then also when I click submit, you're going to notice that my transaction has been submitted. When you send money up to headquarters, it does not require approval. The only time it requires approval is if you are sending to another section, division, or region. Okay, so that was a lot to cover under those first 3 tabs. The next couple of tabs are actually going to move pretty quickly, so then we should have enough time to get to all the questions that you have, which I know you're going to have a lot because it's a lot to process and take in. So I do appreciate that you guys have hung in there with me for this little over an hour now here. So a little bit longer, and then we'll be able to open it up for any questions that everybody has. So the other tools tab is kind of where we just kind of group things together that didn't really necessarily fall too much under cash in or cash out, but still things that you need to manage under the bill highway account so that everything is in line. And one of those first things is actually transfer funds, and this is also another item that's on your onboarding checklist that you need to make sure that you complete. And what we have on your onboarding checklist is actually to transfer money from your local bank account into your bill highway account. And this is where you would use the transfer funds feature to do so. Transfer funds allows you to move money between your bill highway accounts. So whether that's the operating fund and then I want to move it into my scholarship account, or vice versa, scholarship to operating fund account, or I can move money from my local bank account into either my operating fund or my scholarship fund account. So on your onboarding checklist, we have it listed as $100 that you need to move to transfer over. Now this is just an example amount so that you can get the process initiated to make sure that you feel comfortable entering in the information correctly. But what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get your routing and your account number from your local bank account, and you're going to enter that information in here. Then once you have that information entered in here, you would go ahead and put in that $100, and then you can say initial transfer, and I'm going to go ahead and say the date as an example here, and you would go ahead and click save to start that initial transfer from your local bank account. Once you move that $100 over and you notice everything's moving smooth into your bill highway account, then you can follow up and move the rest of that remaining money from your local account into your bill highway account so that you can fully utilize bill highway for all of your expense management. If you are unsure of what your routing number or account number for your local bank account, please contact your local bank account and they will provide that information to you so that you are making sure you are entering in the correct information to transfer that money into bill highway. Now the next thing under other tools is how to enter in a budget. Now we reviewed the budget variance report on your dashboard, but when you actually need to get that information in there for those actual and the budget column, not the actual, the budget column, this is where that information comes in from. And you will need to actually come in and enter budget amounts for whatever reporting categories that you're going to use for your section or division. Now to start, we're going to select a year. I'm going to use 2019 as an example because we just got started here. And then I need to start with my different reporting categories. So for your accounts, we have multiple category groups. So these are the different chart of accounts that you're going to utilize. We have a revenue category, and then you have all of your expense categories here. So under revenue, we'll just start here. It's a great place to get going. As you can see, because I've used this account for different sample purposes, you can see I've already entered in some amounts here. If I need to enter in a dollar amount for any of these categories, you will just click the pencil icon, and then you will enter in whatever amount you expect to bring in. Because we're in revenue, this is money that's going to be coming into your section or division. So enter in whatever amount you think is coming in for that category and hit the disc icon to save that amount. And as you can see, that updated, that's there. Now I've already entered in this money, but if I wanted to change that, maybe that was not right, I can again click that pencil icon and I can make any changes that I need to and just click that disc. Now you're going to see that there's a lot of groups and categories under every column that you have here. If your section or division doesn't use them, just leave it. You don't have to enter in something just because the line item is listed here. It's really whatever section, whatever chart of accounts your section or division utilize, you will enter in information for. And then you'll just want to follow it through to each one of the category groups to review if you're going to utilize them and enter in a budget for those different categories. So just, again, you'll just have to click the pencil, make sure you enter an amount, click the disc to save it, and then move on. Just make sure that you're reviewing all of them just in case that you are utilizing these. And then at the bottom, you can go ahead and click View Summary to review what you've entered in so far. So this is what I've made some updates on. That's why we see that here. And then also, again, from your dashboard, you can always review that budget variance report to see your budgeted amounts of what you've entered in. Now, the last thing under other tools is recoding transactions. So let's say you went through and you had a deposit come in and you put it towards a donation chart of account. But actually, it didn't need to go to donations, it needs to go to something else. Or maybe you coded a prepaid card transaction to a certain chart of account, but really that was wrong and you need to make that update. We want you to be able to do that so that your budget is reflected correctly, so that you know exactly what you spent on and things are not stated incorrectly. So that's why we give you the ability to recode transactions, and you can either do it by transaction type or by summary balance as a whole. Now, summary balance just means that we're taking one chart of account, total amount that you've budgeted there, what actuals are hitting there, and then you would change that amount. So I'll show you what it looks like for both of them. If we're recoding by a transaction, we're going to come into this, and this actually is something that you're going to need to do probably pretty frequently. I would say however often that you receive funds from headquarters is how often you're going to need to come in and recode these transactions. So as I mentioned, that there's multiple ways that you're getting money into your bill highway account. You're going to transfer those funds from your local bank account. You're going to have deposits that you're going to enter in. And then ASQ headquarters is going to be sending you money through the send money feature into your accounts as well so that you have funds there. Now, when the ASQ headquarters sends you money, they are just selecting a chart of account that it needs to go into, but you're going to need to recode that to be the appropriate chart of account for your section or division. And to do that, you're going to use this recoding tool. So we're going to go to recode, and we're going to go to by transaction, and we're going to select deposits. Send money transactions that come into your section or division will always be included in this feature as deposits. So then what I need to do is in step 2, I need to actually find the information as to which one I need to recode. And so it just has me filter out which year I'm looking at so I can find that deposit to recode. So for example purposes, I know that it's coming from ASQ headquarters. When I see check number -777, I know this just because I work here at Bill Highway, but that is a send money transaction into my section. So that's why I know that this is that send money that came from headquarters, and it was for $75, and this is when I got it. So I'm going to actually select this incoming send money deposit that headquarters sent me, and they selected send money incoming revenue when they sent it to me. Well, that's not what it needs to be. I know that it needs to go towards another chart of account, which is going to be allotment. So I need to come in and actually make this change so that it is coded correctly. And to do so, I will click this pencil icon, and a chart of account drop-down will appear, where I can then come up and select allotments. I will then go ahead and click this disk icon to save that. So now this send money transaction that was deposited into my sections account from headquarters is now coded to the proper account of allotment that needs to be for my section or division. Now, you can follow this through for any other deposits that have come in, depending on what it's for. If I needed to make a change, I can always come in and just click that and select a new chart of account to do so. Now, in step 5, it's going to give you, for certain ones, it's going to give you the general ledger date, which is actually going to be the date of when it was processed. Keep that the same. It should always match whatever date's up here, and then just put some comments in here as to why you changed it. And that's how you will change the transaction, what it was coded to for any deposits. Checks will be any online bill payments that went to those vendors that are not nationally recognized. So now while you're not actually creating a check out of Bill Highway, you will still have some checks that are created on your behalf using the online bill payment feature. So keep that in mind if you needed to come in and recode that. You'll see some of them on here as well. So you can always come in and change those. Now, if I needed to recode something and I wanted to not look specifically for a transaction, I can use my summary balance feature to actually change it from one cash account to another, from one chart of account to another chart of account. This will come in handy if you have a prepaid card transaction that you coded incorrectly. You'll use the summary balance feature. So in here, I would just say the amount. So let's say it's $50. I'll select a date, and then I'll reason. I'll just say coded incorrectly. And then I will, in step 3, select where I'm pulling it from. So this is a prepaid card, so it's going to be an expense that I had originally coded it to. So let's say I have put it under education. I actually needed to go towards maybe meetings. So what I will see here is that it decreased what the current amount was, and it's increasing this other chart of account. And I can just go ahead and click change COA, and it would move that for me as well. So you have a couple of different ways to change transactions that have been coded incorrectly by using either transaction to find it specifically or changing it as a summary as a whole. Okay, so now that we have talked about a lot of information so far in this training, I want you to know that we do have reports that are going to cover basically everything that we've talked about so that you can dive further into that information so that you are able to review that information and have that at your disposal to be able to review. The first set of reports that you have access to are your transaction reports. Now, these reports are going to talk about all of those different features that we've discussed with money coming in, money going out, things like that. And what you're going to see under these transaction reports is that all of these reports basically work the same. It will just focus on that type of information for you in that report. So I'm not going to show you all of them. I'm just going to show you one for an example so you can see how it's going to run. The prepaid card will dive into further information for you. So in all of your transaction reports, you're going to be given a default time period, and I can look at the last 7 days, I can look at just today, the last 30 days, or I can put my own date range in. So this is where I can go back and I can actually pull in my own time range. I can go within a 365-day period, and I can pull the information for that there. Now, with the prepaid card, I can also include cancellations. So if anything got denied at the store, if I'm pending, so if I have any approvals waiting out there, I can include those in my report. And then for my transaction type, I can look at all of it. So I can look at any load requests, any spend requests, any deposits that are coming back from any canceled cards, or if you wanted to just focus on any of those, you can actually select that in there. I'm going to go ahead and click submit so that you can see exactly what it's going to look like. And as you're going to see, you're going to have a variety of columns available to you within your report. So you're going to be able to see, whose card it was, if it was a load request, who's approving it, so that you can always go back and see, who requested these funds, who approved it, do we know why, do we know what the notes were on it, why we were spending them, if they are coded already, so we know where we're actually putting that towards our budget. All that information is going to be in this report for you. You can export it out to Excel, so it's going to be easier to look at than scrolling through on the bill highway system. Also, if there's maybe not enough information in here or too much information, you can click on Modify Columns. And what this will do is right now in my report, I have all this information being in my report. So I can actually take things out. So if I don't want this one in there, I can use these arrows in between these boxes and take things out of my report if I wanted to. If I don't want them in there, I can move that around. I find it's beneficial to have everything in your report because you have it at your disposal if you want to export it out to Excel and delete some columns if they don't come useful to you. But I think having it when you run it in the first place is more beneficial than having to come back and rerun it later on. You can also move up the columns in the report by using the arrows all the way over to the right here. So again, all of these reports are going to work exactly the same. They will just highlight that type of activity for that specific name on there. They can all be exported out to Excel to work with outside of bill highway. Online inquiries will show you your budget variance report. We already looked at this from the dashboard. This is another way to get to it. It's the exact same report. We just give you two different ways to find this report. And again, this is where you're going to see that budgeted amount of what you've entered in for different revenue and expense categories versus what you've actually coded to them. So these would be deposits coming in, send money transactions coming in, and then these are going to be your expenses. So any online bill payments or prepaid card transactions will be coded towards the actual column. And then lastly, we have our financial reports. So we have a variety of financial reports available to you. And I think these top three are probably more important to you, especially when it comes tax time, to be able to review these. But your account statement is basically just like a bank statement. It's going to be a report of all the activities for the selected bill highway accounts, so whether that's your operating fund account or the scholarship account, and then for the month time period that you have chosen. Your income statement and your balance sheet, I think, are going to be the ones that you'll most utilize during tax time. But what you're going to see in your income statement is going to provide you a summary of the revenue, expenses, and net income for a period of time, typically a month time period. And of course, it's going to not want to load up for me here, so I'll just kind of keep going through these little bits so you can hear about them all. The balance sheet is going to summarize your assets, liabilities, and the fund balance, usually for a specific time, a month period. Your trial balance is going to be a report that shows you the balance of the assets, liabilities, expenses, loss and gains, and incomes. This is a good tool to utilize to detect any errors if the totals are not equaling. And then I think the last one you'll really utilize is going to be your GL detail, which is going to be your general ledger detailed report, which will show you your assets, liabilities, income and expense accounts, and include all the cash in and cash out. The general ledger report can actually be run for all accounts and for any period of time. So you don't necessarily have to worry about just running it for a month or anything like that, like you do with your income and account statements and things like that. So as you can see here, basically just gives you, which calendar year, which month you're looking at. Let me jump back real fast so that you can see what it looks like for last year when we actually have some information entered in for it. As you can see, we got some year-to-date information. It's going to give you your revenue categories so that we can see information that's in them, all the different stuff that's going on. Go down to the bottom, any expenses, totals, and net income. And again, all of these reports are going to be able to be exported out to the format of your choosing so that you can work with them outside of Bill Highway. Now again, this was a lot to take in, and I do appreciate everybody sticking in here with us, so that we could cover everything that we covered today. I'm going to start to go through these questions, and then we can also get the phone lines opened up so that we can, get everything answered here so that we can get all the questions going. One thing I do want to point out before we actually dive into these questions is that I know we covered a lot, and it's a lot to take in just one sitting, and I don't expect everybody to be a Bill Highway expert after reviewing one little training here. So I do want to let you know that you do have resources available to you. We have put together a very in-depth administrator guide that's going to explain to you how to utilize all of this stuff for your myASQ Finance. And what that's going to include is going to talk about everything within this Bill Highway system. It's going to include, detailed steps of explaining things to you, what is these features, how you're going to utilize them, and then there's also videos that will show you how to use all these features that we talked about. To access this administrator guide, you're going to find it in your member leader community. If you go under the resources and you type in myASQ Finance, you'll be able to find that administrator guide so that you're going to be able to, see everything in there.